let me tell you a story that has intrigued scholars and believers for centuries. It is a tale from ancient texts, shrouded in mystery and curiosity. In the early chapters of Genesis, we encounter Cain, the firstborn of Adam and Eve. He is infamous for the tragic act of fratricide, the murder of his brother Abel. As a consequence, Cain is expelled, marked, and condemned to wander the earth. But amid this tale of sin and exile arises a persistent question that has sparked numerous debates. Who was Cain's mysterious wife? Where did she come from in a world seemingly devoid of other people? This question is not merely a curiosity, it challenges our understanding of the early biblical narratives and the nature of humanity's beginnings. Join me as we unravel the puzzle of Cain's wife, exploring traditional interpretations, alternative theories, and the theological implications that arise from this ancient mystery. To understand the origin of Cain's wife, we first need to consider the biblical context and the narrative presented in Genesis. The Bible tells us that after killing Abel, Cain fled to the land of Nod, east of Eden. Here is where the story becomes intriguing. In Genesis 4:17, we read that Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. But who was this wife, and where did she come from? Let's explore the possible explanations. A common theory is that Cain married one of his sisters or nieces. According to Genesis 5-4, Adam had other sons and daughters after Cain and Abel. Although the Bible does not provide names or details, it is plausible that in such an early and small population, marriages between siblings or close relatives were necessary for humanity's continuity. Another, more speculative theory suggests that God created other people besides Adam and Eve. But these creations are not detailed in the Bible. This raises interesting questions about the Genesis narrative and how it has been interpreted over centuries. Finally, there is the possibility that the mention of Cain's wife is simply an intentional mystery, a piece of a larger puzzle that God chose not to fully reveal. This mystery leads us to reflect on the vastness and depth of divine plans, often beyond our human understanding. And so, we continue our exploration, delving deeper into scriptures and theological interpretations that seek to clarify who this enigmatic figure in Cain's story could be. Stay with me, because the next part of this journey may shed light on other fascinating aspects of this biblical mystery. Returning to our exploration, it's important to understand how the narrative of Cain and his wife fits into the larger panorama of Genesis. The mention of Adam's sons and daughters suggests there was a growing population not fully detailed in scriptures. This leads us to consider life in Nod, a land about which we know very little. Nod, in Hebrew, means wandering or exile, symbolizing Cain's state after being cursed by God. Imagining Nod as a place of exile can help us better understand the environment in which Cain found his wife. It was a land inhabited by people who, like Cain, may have been considered outsiders or marginalized. Away from the center of Eden and the direct presence of God, this perspective offers us a glimpse into life outside paradise, where humanity was beginning to spread and form new communities. This narrative leads us to another intriguing question. How did Cain and his wife live in Nod? Scriptures tell us that Cain built a city and named it Enoch, after his son. This reference to a city suggests a level of organization and social development beyond nomadic or tribal life. Let's imagine the early stages of urbanization, where Cain, a fugitive and murderer, became a builder and leader, shaping a new beginning for his descendants. The continuity of Cain's lineage through his wife is a testament to human complexity and resilience, even in the face of divine condemnation. What we can glean from this story is the capacity for transformation and new beginnings, even in the most adverse circumstances. In the next part, we will take a closer look at the figure of Enoch and what his story reveals about Cain's lineage and its impact on the biblical narrative. The building of the city of Enoch by Cain marks a crucial point in the narrative. As it is the first mention of a city in the Bible, this act by Cain not only demonstrates his attempt to create a new life after exile, but also suggests an effort to establish a form of continuity and legacy. The foundation of Enoch symbolizes Cain's endeavor to build something enduring, even after being marked and banished by God. In this setting, his wife plays a pivotal role. While the biblical text does not provide details about her, we can imagine that as Cain's partner, She contributed to the construction of this new society. Her figure represents all the women not explicitly mentioned in scriptures, but who had a significant impact on human history. Exploring the city of Enoch, we can envision a place where new families emerged and where culture and traditions began to develop. The contributions of Cain and his wife to this community symbolize a fresh start, despite their turbulent origins. Enoch, son of Cain, and the city named after him demonstrate how Cain's lineage continued and adapted to its environment. Enoch's story also prompts us to reflect on the impact and influence of Cain's actions on future generations. Despite his mark and his past, Cain managed to create something that endured beyond his own life, and the presence of his wife was essential to that continuity. Moving forward, let's examine how this new community and the descendants of Cain, including notable figures like Lamech, continued to shape the biblical narrative. We will see how Cain's actions echoed through the generations, affecting the history of the patriarchs and the formation of humanity. In the continuation of Cain's lineage, we encounter Lamech, an intriguing and complex figure who adds depth to the narrative of Cain's descendants. Lamech is known for being the first man in the Bible to have two wives, Ada and Zillah, marking the beginning of polygamy in the biblical narrative. Lamech is also notable for his brief but significant poem, often called Lamech's Song. In it, he proclaims to have killed a man for wounding him and a young man for injuring him. This statement, found in Genesis 23-24, echoes Cain's act of violence, but Lamech seems to boast about his ability for revenge and personal justice, multiplying the violence that began with his ancestor. Lamech's stance, declaring that he will be avenged 77 times, contrasts with the protective mark that God placed on Cain, while God ensured Cain's protection against excessive vengeance. Lamech appears to adopt an attitude of self-justice, exacerbating violence. This attitude of Lamech provides us with a glimpse into the potential consequences of Cain's lineage, where violence may perpetuate and even escalate across generations. His song and actions indicate a society where personal revenge and violence could become accepted norms, contrasting with the principles of justice and mercy that would later be emphasized elsewhere in the Bible. Continuing with the story of Cain's descendants, we will see how these themes of violence and retribution affected not only Cain's children, but also resonated in the broader history of humanity, influencing future generations and the morality of the time. With the introduction of Lamech and his legacy of violence and revenge, it is crucial to explore the broader impact of Cain's descendants on society during that time. Through the generations, Cain's lineage not only perpetuated violence, but also made significant advancements in other areas of human life. Lamech's sons, such as Jabal, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain, are credited with important innovations. Jabal is described as the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock, indicating the beginnings of pastoral life. Jubal is mentioned as the father of all who play the harp and flute, suggesting the development of music and the arts. Tubal-Cain, on the other hand, is identified as a blacksmith who forged tools of bronze and iron, marking the advent of metallurgy. These contributions show that while Cain's lineage was associated with violence, it also brought significant technological and cultural advancements. This points to the complexity of human nature, where progress and destruction can coexist within the same genealogical line. Furthermore, the expansion of technological and artistic skills among Cain's descendants demonstrates human capacity to innovate and adapt, even amidst adverse circumstances. These advancements would have a lasting impact on future civilizations, shaping how societies would develop. As we reflect on Cain's descendants, it is essential to consider both the positive and negative aspects of their legacy. Their story reminds us that human potential for innovation and creativity can emerge from any context, even those marked by conflict and challenges. As descendants of Cain continue to develop their skills and influence the world around them, the biblical narrative approaches the introduction of a crucial new character. Noah, the lineage of Cain, with all its complexities and advancements, contrasts with the line of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, who is often viewed as a more righteous and devout line. It is important to note that the Bible shows us two distinct lineages that coexist and intertwine over time. While Cain's descendants are associated with technological innovation and violence, Seth's descendants are described as those who began to call upon the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26. This contrast establishes a dynamic between rebellion and devotion, violence and piety, which will become central in the story of Noah and the flood. Noah emerges as a key figure, described as a righteous man amidst a corrupt generation. His introduction sets the stage for the narrative of the flood, which will be a significant turning point in human history. Through Noah, the lineage of Seth will be preserved, while the corruption that permeated the world, including the descendants of Cain, will be cleansed. This part of the narrative prompts us to reflect on the capacity for redemption and renewal. Even amidst chaos and corruption, the promise of a new opportunity and the preservation of justice remain. Noah's story serves as a reminder that despite human failings and wrong choices, there is always a chance to start afresh and strive for righteousness. This transitional point is crucial for understanding continuity and change in biblical narratives, showing how generations influence each other and how the choices of one individual can profoundly impact the future of humanity. The identity of Cain's wife is an intriguing and often discussed topic within religious and academic contexts. The Bible briefly mentions that Cain, after killing his brother Abel, went to the land of Nod, where he met his wife. However, it does not provide explicit details about her origin or identity. Contemporary scholars and theologians have explored various perspectives to understand who this wife of Cain might have been. Some interpretations suggest she could have been Cain's sister, considering the common practice of sibling marriages in ancient times. Other theories propose she might have been a descendant of Adam and Eve, but not explicitly mentioned in the Bible's main accounts. Furthermore, modern debates also consider the possibility that the story of Cain and his wife is symbolic or representative of a larger group of people who already existed at that time. This raises questions about the chronology and biblical narrative regarding the creation of humanity. The diversity of opinions reflects the complexity of the biblical text and the quest to understand the stories and characters presented. Each perspective offers valuable insights into the interpretation of the Bible and its relevance to contemporary issues of identity, morality, and human origins. The main theories and debates surrounding the identity of Cain's wife provide a comprehensive view of how scholars interpret and understand ancient biblical accounts. One predominant theory suggests that Cain's wife could have been his sister, given the common practice of marriages among close relatives during that time. This interpretation is based on the idea that after Cain was banished, he found a partner among his own family members. Another line of thought considers the possibility that Cain's wife represents a group of people already existing on earth at that time, not explicitly mentioned in the Bible's main texts. This raises questions about the chronology and biblical narrative, sparking debates about literal versus symbolic interpretation of biblical accounts. Reflecting on the story of Cain's wife, we are confronted with the mysteries and gaps that permeate the sacred scriptures. The nature of biblical interpretation teaches us that biblical stories are not only historical accounts, but also texts rich with symbolic meanings and moral lessons. The quest to understand these mysteries challenges us to explore beyond the written words, seeking to understand the cultural, social, and spiritual context that shaped these narratives over centuries.